Welcome to Out of Bounds with Ralph Sampson and Jason Zone Fisher, brought to you by Steven Toyota. I'm Jason Zone Fisher, and I'm excited for this episode. Ralph, how you doing, my man?
I'm good this week. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you excited?
I'm extremely excited because
I can feel it.
The guy we got today is a friend of mine I played with in the NBA, and he's a special person.
That's right. We have an incredible guest on the show today, Phil Ford. And
wow.
I can't wait to chat with Phil. You've known him for a very long time.
A long time. We played together, like I said, in Houston with the Rockets, and all the stories and all the things he represents, you know, the four corners. I just want to get to all those questions. I want to understand what he felt like when he got a gold medal.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Phil Ford, when he finished his college basketball career at the University of North Carolina, he was the all-time leading scorer in UNC history. He went on to be the number 2 overall pick in the 1979 NBA draft by the Kansas City Kings. He won NBA Rookie of the Year that year. He played almost 500 NBA games. He had an incredible career. He was actually elected to the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2012, where reflecting
Amazing.
upon his incredible career at the University of North Carolina. I can't wait to hear for that. He was very close with Coach Dean Smith, who he played for, and then he got into coaching and started his coaching career as an assistant with Dean Smith and went on to be an assistant in the NBA for several years, with Larry Brown, another legendary
coach, a guy that played at UNC as well. So they bleed Carolina blue. So I'm looking forward to this interview, and we'll find out is he the top scorer in North Carolina history.
Oh, we will find out. We will, if he still is, or if that record has been broken.
We'll see.
I know. So it's going to be a great episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to Out of Bounds with Ralph Sampson and Jason Zone Fisher. This is going to be a good one today. Thanks for joining. Let's get into it.
Here we go. If you're thinking about buying, you better see Ryan. Hi, I'm Ralph Sampson for
Steven Toyota.
With a tremendous selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, SUVs, and a lot of great certified used Toyota vehicles in stock. Plus, we have a team working hard to get your credit approved and more for your trade. If you're thinking about buying, you better see my friend Ryan.
Steven Toyota.
Shop today, South Main Street, Harrisonburg, and StevenToyota.com. And be sure to tell Ryan that Ralph sent you.
Steven Toyota.
We are really excited because we are joined by a legend today from the University of North Carolina. He's an Olympic gold medalist, the number 2 overall pick in the 1979 NBA draft, went on to be NBA Rookie of the Year, was inducted into the College Basketball Hall of Fame in 2012. I'm so excited to have here today Phil Ford, Ralph.
We call him the Thriller. So, the Thriller, the Killer. Hey, man, I didn't know you. I thought you were the first pick in the draft. I didn't know you were the second pick in the draft. What happened with that?
Yeah, I was the second pick. Michael Thompson.
University
of Minnesota was the first pick. Yeah, he's a great player.
Oh, yeah, he's a great player.
Matter of fact, that's Clay's dad.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. Well, I mean, if you're going to go number 2, at least have Michael Thompson there as the first pick with a great lineage in basketball. Now, how long have the two of you known each other?
Oh, wow.
I met Stick when he was in high school, when he visited the University of North Carolina. I know how bad Coach Smith and our coaching staff wanted him to be a Tar Heel. So I've known him a long time. I've known him a lot longer than I haven't known him.
Well,
I guess that says a lot about our age.
Let's be quiet about that one. But every time I see Al Wood, I told him, it's your fault that I didn't come to Carolina because you and I forget who he was with at that point in time. They took me on the visit and took me around campus. Al said, "Well, just make your way back over to Carmichael at that point in time and see if you can get back. And we'll see you in a couple hours, whatever." I got lost on campus, and then Dean Smith got mad at him, like, "Okay, what the hell did you do?" So it's all crazy with that. But we blame Al Wood for that at this point.
Wow.
Well, I'm going to blame. That's the first I've heard that story, and I'm going to hold that against Al. I talk to him almost 2 or 3 times a week, but I'm glad you let me know that, Stick.
Yeah, I played in a golf tournament a while back, and he was there. And I mean, Al is a great guy. So you tell him I said hello.
I will. Al's a great golfer, too. He's pretty much scratched now. He's playing a lot these days.
That means he's not working hard. He's playing all the time, yeah.
I know it. That's what I tell him. Yeah.
Now, you guys played against each other for years, but then you actually were teammates as well in Houston.
Well, we didn't play against. I'm a lot older than Stick, and we were actually teammates in Houston when
Right.
Stick was the foundation of getting that Houston program back up to speed. And he was a great teammate. You know, I actually stayed with him a couple of weeks before I found my apartment, and became great friends and been tighter ever since. I'd do anything for Ralph. He's a great guy, and I'm honored to be on his show.
Well, we come from a great pedigree background, ACC basketball. I mean, we know that's the best league in the country, and when you played there in the '80s and late '80s, 70s, and we were talking here earlier about the four corners, and Coach Smith and you were the guru of the stall game tactics, but no one could stop Phil Ford in that era. So tell me about the four corners and how that came about, because it changed the game up.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. If you go back and look at the 4 years that I was at North Carolina, we averaged over 80 points a game. And I think that's a reason that the four corners actually worked. People thought that we were actually stalling the ball. But if you think about my teammates, I played with guys like Walter Davis, Mitch Kupchak, Tommy LaGarde, Walter Davis, Dudley Bradley, all had pro careers. And we would hold the ball if you wouldn't come out of a zone, but we were trying to make you play man to man, and we were looking for one-on-one opportunities to take the ball to the basket, to get a backdoor cut or hit a free throw. But it worked. It worked for us very successfully. My job at the beginning was to kind of tease, to act like we weren't looking to score, and the team, when we finally found an opening or a crease to take it to the basket, we'd score. And a lot of times what would happen is the other team would come down and take a quick bad shot.
Right.
So
right.
it's very important to rebound the ball and come down and do it again. And, at that time, we got up 8 or 9 points. The game was pretty much over. But, we were looking for easy scoring opportunities out of the four corners. And I think people thought that we weren't looking to score, and that was a weapon that we were able to use to win some games.
Now, did Coach Smith come up with the four corners, or how
did
that evolve?
Believe it or not, I don't know. I don't know if you know Coach Vaughn from Elizabeth City State University.
Know the name, yeah.
His coach actually came up with four corners, and he actually ran four corners first. Every time I run into Coach Vaughn, he always lets me know that he was the originator,
all right.
the first guy in the middle in four corners. But it was something that Coach Smith used, and we practiced it every day, Ralph. It wasn't something that we just at the end of the game we just did. It's something that we worked on all the time. And at that time, with no shot clock, it was a weapon for us. And not only was it good for us, but it made the other team to have to practice against it. So it took up some of their practice time. So it was just brilliant that Coach Smith came up with that with all of our skills. And, you think of guys like Tommy LaGarde and Mitch Kupchak and Walter Davis, it's kind of hard to guard them one-on-one with no help. So, we were able to get to the line a lot.
And I'll turn it back to Jason here for a second. But do you think that the four corners helped you guys? Because, Carolina in the days from, Charlie Scott to you to Michael and that whole deal, helped them establish their game one-on-one in the four corners and the stall tactic. Because, the game that I played against Carolina in the ACC tournament, that they stalled the game was like 35-33. And that's the year before they put the shot clock in and the three-pointer. But you think it enhanced the ability to play in the league because you were able to, go one-on-one, at that point in time. So it helped those guys there establish their ability to play in the NBA. So do you think that helped them or hurt them in a way where, when they got to the league, they couldn't perform?
Well, people always say that I'm the reason that the shot clock was implemented in the game. Mm-hmm. But I really believe that game is the game that really pushed the NCAA toward the shot clock. And I think, if I recall, I think the game was that low of a score because you guys wouldn't come out of a zone.
Right.
And I know with you under the basket, I mean, gosh, I'm not gonna play against you just under the basket. Right. We wanted to get you out of that zone and into a man-to-man. That's what I said earlier. If you didn't come out and guard us and we were ahead, I would just hold the ball and we'll take the score as is.
Right.
But I think by playing four corners, you had to have a lot of skills. You had to have guys that could rebound, guys that could defend, because it was, like I said, it was very important to go down the other end and play good defense and get the rebound. And you had to have guys that could pass. And also, something that's kind of missing in the game today, you had to have guys that could step up to the free throw line in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game with a tight score and knock in their free throws. So I think it helped us become better basketball players, as far as developing those type of skills.
Well, it sounds like such a disciplined way to play the game. I was watching, you watch the NBA now. Just the other night, I was watching Golden State Warriors game, the 35-33. That's a first quarter score, in today's basketball. How do you think the game has changed when you watch both the pro game and college today from back when you were playing? Is this one of the biggest examples?
Well, I'm one of those guys that I don't believe in, back in my day, we were so much better. You hear a lot of guys, I don't believe that, because I think the guys are bigger now. They're faster now. They're more skilled now. They have better equipment. If you look at an old classic NBA game, I was looking at it with a buddy the other day. When the ball comes up and you're running a play, you got a couple guys on the block. You're actually running things. It's in the paint kind of. But now, not only in the pro game, but even in college, people start their offense with all 5 players outside of the 3-point line.
Yep.
So the game has really moved further from the basket. I think something that would help the game, I don't think we ought to mess with the rim, the height of the rim, but I think we should widen the court a little bit, because, that 3-point line, now everybody shoots it. And, Stick, you were one of the first big guys that could go out from the basket and play away from the basket.
Well,
most people your size back
they didn't
then,
want me. They didn't, Bill Fitch didn't want us to, so that's the way it worked.
but you had those skills, and that was an odd skill for someone your size to have. I don't blame Coach Fitch. I was coaching back in that time. I know how you could work down on the post. You'd be working on the post. But today,
everyone does.
You be shooting threes like Dirk and like all those other guys. Yeah. So I think the game has evolved. So it's fun to watch. I like it. It's going to be interesting how the game evolves over the next 25 years. Because to me, you look at a guy like Steph Curry, he's really taken the point guard position to another level. You look at how he plays. You look how James Harden plays. Guys aren't just really the John Stockton type setup guys anymore. They're threats from deep, take it to the basket. They're great passers. And now you have little kids growing up playing, going to be like Steph. Sooner or later, 20, 25 years, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys on the team like Steph. So I can't wait.
But come on, Phil, you would, as smart as you are at the point guard position, you would take Steph and give him one direction. He couldn't come back to his right hand. You would shut it down, shut it off before he got to half court. So, the physicality of the game, the way we played it to the way they play it now.
Oh, yeah, it was more physical when we played.
You probably would shut him down. I'll tell somebody the other day, can you imagine Isaiah Thomas, you, and those guys playing Steph Curry today? What would he do?
Well, the problem is, Stick, with me, with Steph, is I've seen him take a shot from the hash mark.
Exactly.
Where do you start guarding that guy?
Yeah, he had no conscience for sure.
I know. I always think, at North Carolina, we had a rule that we didn't like to take shots when no one is under the basket for an offensive rebound. But you look at the way Golden State plays, the way they push it up, a lot of times, with Clay and Steph and, those guys, I wouldn't be too upset if they were open from the 3-point line and no one was under the goal for them to take that shot.
Yeah.
So
they take 3-pointers as instead of layups on fast breaks.
Well, 3-pointers take, you miss, they usually going to be a long rebound. Much longer rebound. So it just comes that way.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Phil, when you finished your college career in North Carolina, you finished as the all-time leading scorer in University of North Carolina history. That's an amazing accomplishment, especially for a school like Carolina. When you think basketball programs, I think of North Carolina probably first and foremost. So many legends went there. You're currently in second to Ralph. Do you know who this is?
Phil knows who it is, and it's a big guy. Right?
Yeah. I was surprised to learn Tyler Hansbrough is now the all-time leading scorer in North Carolina history. Do you remember both the night that you set that record and the night that all records are meant to be broken, but the night that Tyler took over that distinction?
Well, I held the record for close to 30 years. But the reason that I held the record that long, honestly, is because I stayed in school 4 years. You know,
Hmm.
you got guys like Mike and Antoine Jameson and Vince Carter, you know, just to name a few. Had those guys stayed in school 4 years, they would have the broken the record. But Tyler was a great college player,
Hmm.
and Stick can tell you the games are different. The college
Oh
game
yeah.
is so much different than the pro game. And as far as the college game, I don't think you will find many players that were as talented or worked as hard and got the most out of his ability than Tyler Hansbrough.
Yeah.
I broke the record during my senior year. Lenny Rosenbluth, a guy who was on the 1957 national championship team. Matter of fact, he and I sit closely together at games now. And Tyler broke my record. Like I said, 30 years from that, I was coaching in the NBA at that time, and Coach Williams actually had me back
Mm.
to the game that night, and we honored Tyler on the court after he broke that record. But it's well deserved, man. He was a great player for us. He's arguably the most decorated player in the history of our school as
Wow.
far as awards are concerned. So he was a great player for us.
And hard nosed. I mean,
Yeah.
he tenacity, rebound, dive on the floor for loose balls, take charges. He probably couldn't jump over a $5 bill, but it's all
Right.
good. But
Yeah.
great player, definitely a great player.
Yeah.
Yeah, great college player. And like I think once you get to the NBA, I think the athleticism and the explosiveness, becomes into play a lot. But
Mhm.
as far as college players are concerned, I think Tyler Hansbrough will go down as one of the greatest college players ever.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Phil, you've accomplished so many things in your basketball career. I mentioned some of them when I introduced you, from winning an Olympic gold medal to the NBA Rookie of the Year, the College Player of the Year, inducted into the College Basketball Hall of Fame. Is there one accomplishment or achievement that you reached in your basketball career that you're most proud of?
Believe it or not, one of the things I'm most proud of is graduating in 4 years with my degree in business administration. Both of my
Mhm.
parents were teachers, and my mom was an English and French teacher, and probably saw me play in first person maybe 5 times. She wasn't a big sports fan, but that's a major accomplishment that I'm extremely proud of, and I'm proud to be an Olympic gold medalist. I think when you stand up on that podium and the national anthem is playing, and you know that you've done something that everyone in America can be proud of, and especially, I don't know if you guys know, in 1976, that was an Olympics after the Olympics that we lost our first Olympic game in '72 in
Absolutely.
Munich, Germany.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were being criticized because Coach Smith had 4 players from North Carolina and 7 from the ACC.
Exactly.
And
He was loaded there. He was loaded.
well, the 4 guys were Kupchak, Lagarde, Davis, and Ford. So
Right.
I guess you couldn't complain too much.
Yeah, well, you
but
got a starting 5 right there, boy, I tell you. Walter Davis, for sure.
and then you throw in Scott May, who was a great college player, and Quinn Buckner, and Adrian Dantley, who was probably one of the greatest scorers ever to play basketball, and some other guys. And Coach Smith just did a good job of putting us together. He didn't have a lot of time. A lot of the European teams played together all the time,
yes.
but Coach Smith had a couple of months to put together our team, and we just kept getting better and better as the summer went on, and we were able to bring the gold medal back to the United States, which a lot of the sports writers said that we couldn't do because they said we lacked experience in the middle, and I think at that time we were the youngest Olympic team ever. So I was after my sophomore year.
Wow.
So we were able to do something that a lot of people said we weren't able to do. So I'll always remember that. But my entire experience at the University of North Carolina, athletically, academically, socially, is something that I'll never forget, and it was more than I expected. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't hesitate about going back to North Carolina. I've met a lot of pro players that had a bad experience at the college that they went to. I just took for granted that everybody loved their school the way that I love North Carolina, but that's not the case. But if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't hesitate to attend Carolina again.
Well, 2 things. One, Carolina people bleed Carolina blue. There's only one Carolina blue, and every time you go around the country, you see somebody with Carolina. Them jokers bleed it, boy. I tell you, it's not red, it's not green, it's Carolina blue, and you know that. So the sky is Carolina blue. But going back to your Olympic experience, and you see the guys today, especially in football, kneeling down at the national anthem. And so, I had a chance to play in the Olympics, but they boycotted the year I had a chance to play. But how do you feel about the days football or basketball players, respecting or disrespecting the national anthem? Because you were there in the prime spot to win a gold medal, to represent the country in that way, even after the loss years before that. What do you think about that today?
I just think that's a controversy that needs not to be a controversy. I don't. The whole thing, it seems like it's got twisted to me, because I look at it this way. I don't think anyone wants innocent people to be beat up by policemen. Every time I see a policeman, I thank him for what he's done, because most of the policemen are great, but you do have some bad policemen. All right. Nobody wants policemen to be beat up. Nobody wants to disrespect the flag or disrespect the service guys. Every time I see a serviceman, I thank him for what he's done for me. So why are we at this crossroad? I mean, if nobody wants that, how did this controversy ever come to be?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
If nobody wants people to beat up, nobody wants to disrespect the flag, nobody wants to disrespect our military people. I mean, how did this happen? How did we get to where we are right now if that's what everybody wants? I mean, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's crazy because, I was in Virginia this summer, and, all the things that happened in Charlottesville, and then, obviously UVA got some of that blame and kickback from it. So you see that, and it's escalated like crazy, across the country, actually across the world with this whole flag thing. And like I said, I think it's got blown out of proportion as well. So, when you can stand there and represent your country, especially in the Olympics, it's one of the most pleasing experiences. I played in the 79 Pan American Games, and I had Mike Woodson and the crew with us there. And that's the time that Bobby Knight hit the cop. So it was kind of a crazy situation there. But anyway, it was a great experience. I know you had a great experience at the Olympics and enjoyed that as well.
Well, speaking about
Montreal, Canada was a great place. They were great hosts. I really enjoyed it.
Well, speaking a little bit about what we're talking about, this is a question for the two of you. I find that, our country is pretty divided right now, and there's obviously a lot of controversial things happening, and sports, more so than almost anything else, has the ability to bring people together in different communities and different cities of different backgrounds, different socioeconomic classes, different races. When the two of you were athletes and playing in various different political and social climates, did you feel any extra sense of responsibility, the role that you had as prominent athletes and sportsmen, knowing how sports and the teams that you play on really can serve to bring people together?
Well, I always think, and I just try to do what's right all the time, no matter whether you're an athlete or a teacher or a professor or a doctor or a dentist. I just think that, you just try to live a spiritual life. I try to live a spiritual life and do what's right. And the way that I feel is I think that the country is kind of divided right now. And I think the reason is because everybody tries to convince the other person that they're correct, instead of listening and understanding the other person's idea and trying to move closer to that person. It doesn't have to be one way or another, or all my way or all your way. I think as a human being, we all have our rights to feel certain ways. But, once we feel those certain ways, how can we move closer together to live in more harmony and make this a better country?
So, Phil, how do you get to that point? And I agree with you in all respects there. Basketball and sports, and then music also tied in there, I think, a little bit as well. But, how do we learn that at an early age? Sports enabled us to be on a team, understand how a team plays and teamwork and teammates. So when you were growing up, who taught you that? Because everybody asks me all the time, how do you become Ralph Sampson? I was like, I got a God's gift to be tall, one, but this wasn't made overnight, and you wasn't made overnight, but somebody taught you something in your life. So how do you take that and tell these people that are listening, how do you become Phil Ford?
Well, I was in a very unique situation, as I said before, because my mom and dad were were public school teachers. And I was very fortunate to always be very close to my teachers. I was very close to my coaches. I've never had a coach that I didn't get along with on a personal level. So it was easy for me to listen to what they said and listen and look and see how they were acting in certain situations. So, I think my teachers and my coaches were always very supportive of me, and I always had good teachers and good coaches. So, I guess I'm one of the lucky ones. Most people that you meet, would tell you that this one teacher that they didn't get along with, or they hated, or one coach that they didn't get along with or hated. But throughout my career and my life, I've always had, I always got along with my teachers and my coaches. And, I think that was an asset to my life.
Well, Phil, you got to play for and coach alongside one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in the history of college basketball, maybe all of basketball, Dean Smith. Can you talk a little bit about what Coach Smith meant to you?
Wow. How long ago?
We got some time.
Got about 10 days.
I think everybody knows the relationship that I had with Coach Smith, but it wasn't only me. It was everyone that played for him. And Coach was the type of person, even if you went to another school and he had recruited you, he would always send you a note, thank you for allowing him to recruit him, and he would want the best for you in your career. But he was a great man. I think, I'm one of those ones that happen to believe that he's the greatest coach to ever coach. But, if you ask Quinn Buckner, he'll probably say Coach Knight, or you ask, Grant Hill, he'll say Coach Krzyzewski, Stick probably say Coach Holland. So I think that's a personal thing as far as the greatest. But I think the honor is anytime the conversation does come up, Coach Smith's name is in that conversation as far as the greatest coach to ever coach. But when you put the type of person that he was probably the most fair person I've ever met in my life. I've said, a spiritual life and trying to always do what's right. I think that's what Coach Smith always tried to do. And anybody that played for him, would say that they got a fair shake, that he was always doing what's right. He was a great man, along with being the greatest coach ever.
I mean, but you look back in the day, then, he brought Charlie Scott into the fold at Carolina. And
at a time when that wasn't too cool.
It wasn't too cool back then, And I at Virginia, I came in, and then we had a couple African American guys on the team, Mike Owens, Garland Jefferson, and Bobby Stokes. And so, I came in with 5 African American guys, so it changed the culture of UVA at that point in time. And Coach Smith did that at Carolina, but he did it actually around the country. But very special man, and again, you were right. I got that same little note. Thank you for, the possibility of recruiting you and all that. So he was a great man, great coach. Everybody says John Wooden was as well, and, the Wooden legacy and the Wooden principles. I'm sure he was good at it as well. Met him years ago, and I'm sure you did as well. But, it's very hard to come by those type of coaches today. Krzyzewski is one of them as well you can put in that class. But I don't think you'll ever have a coach like Coach Wooden or Coach Smith, ever again.
Yeah.
Well, I've never heard Coach Smith swear.
Right.
And I have to admit that that's the only coach I ever had that didn't swear.
We had a few of them. That's for sure.
But I tell you, he could speak to you in a way that I used to wish, well, just go ahead and swear at me. But he was a great man. I miss him daily. His family just donated 12,000 items of his works to the library at the University of North Carolina, notes and books and all different type things. I think included is a telegram he got from Michael Jordan when he when he became the all-time leading wins coaches with the most wins. So It's pretty interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but I can't wait to get over there and go through it.
And that'd be great to see.
Yeah,
get down there and check it out.
Very cool. Speaking of Coach Smith, one last thing: is there one piece of advice or lesson that really he taught you that sticks out about? I mean, I'm sure there's countless, but one thing that's really impacted you from your time with him?
I think that the humility that he had as a person, just everybody is the same. Everybody's equal on the court. He treated the guys that started the guys that didn't start the same as the guys that started. He was just a very humble man for everything that he had achieved, and he kept things in perspective. Sometimes he'd let us know there, a couple billion people in China that don't know we're playing
right,
tonight.
right.
I mean, he just had a way of wins and losses. I know sometimes, before games, he would just say, "I hope we play well," and I say, "Well, I hope we win, and if we don't play well, we can talk about it tomorrow."
And he probably would talk about it in practice too, for sure. Right? If you lost.
Yeah.
So,
So
yes.
he had life pretty cool in perspective. I respect that a lot.
If you're thinking about buying, you better see Ryan. Hi, I'm Ralph Sampson for
Steven Toyota.
with a tremendous selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, SUVs, and a lot of great certified used Toyota vehicles in stock. Plus, we have a team working hard to get your credit approved and more for your trade. If you're thinking about buying, you better see my friend Ryan.
Steven Toyota.
Shop today, South Main Street, Harrisonburg, and StevenToyota.com. And be sure to tell Ryan that Ralph sent you.
Steven Toyota.
Wow.
So I know you've been on, talk shows and radio shows as well, and even me doing this now and trying to build this network, which is great. And thanks for being on it again. The great Phil Ford.
Anytime for you, Ralph.
No, great. But what I want to do is have more of a conversation. People ask you many questions, ideas, your thoughts, and as I told the guys here that you come. Phil's done this before, so it's gonna be a great interview.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to shift down to a little bit more on the personal side with again the Phil Ford and what are you doing now, and you mentioned your family, your mom and dad, and how they brought you up, because the kids today are not brought up like we were. You got great parents. I have got great parents. Mine are 80 and 81. And then you got great teammates like Al Wood or Walter Davis. And so the camaraderie with that after the game is kind of what I want to really focus on. So I want to give these young kids, especially the ones that are playing today, how do you manage all this stuff they got there? We didn't have Facebook and Twitter and all this social media as we talked about doing Skype on this call. Like, what is Skype? I don't even know how to do that. So what advice can you give, and what thoughts can you give, to the young kids today, but also just let's banter back and forth a little bit, because this country we live in is crazy right now, and the NBA and the guys can you imagine making $200 million? Phil Ford had made $500 million, and it'd been crazy, the money at that point in time. So it's kind of got blown up, but the foundation was built before us, but also with us as well. Yeah. So I think some of the guys forget that.
Well, I think the big thing is to respect everyone. I not only on the basketball court, but off the basketball court. As I said earlier, I think, as a human being, you have that right to believe, what you want to believe. And I think the second thing is, why do you play basketball, or why do you play your sport? We played it because we loved it.
Right, absolutely.
Of course there was money involved, but, we would have continued to play basketball, when we left college. If there was no NBA to go to, we'd have been down at the rec playing
outdoor
every night.
court, the chain link baskets and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that I do now out of Phil Ford basketball is I train young kids, elementary school kids and junior high kids in one-on-one lessons. And the thing that I have to explain to their parents is, number one, do they love it? I think most guys that are successful in a sport have to love it. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. I think guys, like Stick could have got away without loving it. Rasheed Wallace could have got away without loving it. But, those guys are blessed with certain talents, size, speed, understanding of the game, hands. I mean, those guys will be good whether they love it or not. But the number one thing is to love it. And then the next thing is you got to learn how to play. Basketball is just not, or sports is just not rolling a football out there or rolling a basketball out there and running up and down the court. You have to learn the correct way to play. And, if you love it and you get the fundamentals down and you learn how to play, then the natural ability will take over. And if you have that natural ability, you become a pro player. But everybody, is not going to be a pro player. I always, like I was saying about my kids, you got to shoot for your goals and go for them, but you got to have a game plan B And the best game plan B that I can come up with now is an education, and not necessarily a 4-year school. Sometimes maybe a technical school. Just something you can do, learn a skill that you can take care of yourself the rest of your life. So,
Absolutely.
I think the big thing is just to respect everyone and love what you do. Try to treat people the right way. I guess in my life, I'm more spiritual than I've ever been in my life, but that's not for everyone. I know that's for me.
Right.
I couldn't get by in my life now without that. I've had some ups and I've had some downs, and because of that spirituality, I am where I am today. I'm happy as I've ever been.
Absolutely.
And like getting back to what you said, Stick, there is a lot of money, involved in professional sports now, but you got to think about life. What makes you happy?
Yep.
Would I be more happier, with 200 million in my account than I am right now? I don't know. When to get down to the basics, I would be able to do more things, of course.
Yeah.
But on the internal inside, would that make me more happy? I mean, honestly, I don't know, because I've never had 200 million. Maybe I would have more headaches.
Yeah, right.
So you just don't know. So if you can live your life and be happy with what you're doing, and everybody's not going to be you or MJ, on the basketball court, but you can be the best that you can be. And if you're the best that you can be, then I think you should be satisfied.
Well, I tell people all the time, I taught my kids some of the similar things, like, if I just make my bed up every day the best I can, at least I'll accomplish something by just making your bed up. So I kind of have to do that on a daily basis, just to remind myself, of the plan B, but also be the best you can and be there. So we were taught some of the similar things. And I think guys that, are achieving great things on and off the court of any sport, were taught some of those similar principles as they were growing up. So, it's a great advice and great information. So if someone wanted to, you have camps down there, or someone wanted to come get trained by the great Phil Ford, point guard Rubens, how did they do that?
Well, I have it's Phil Ford basketball.com that I can be reached at. P Ford at Phil Ford basketball that I can be reached at. But a lot of it's just word of mouth. What I do now. I don't have a lot of kids, believe it or not, Ralph, because kids have such crazy schedules right now.
Yes.
And a lot of the way we do it is just by on the phone with the parents, what day we can get together. We try to get together at least twice a week, but you can't do that Tuesday, Thursday type thing that I thought I was going to be able to do it, but I can be reached at pford at philfordbasketball.com. And, I enjoy that. It's amazing. It's really amazing to me. I've coached guys that make $15-20 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
But when you teach a little 4th grade girl who's right-handed to do a left-handed layup, that look that she gives you, I mean, and I'm thinking to myself, we still got a long ways to go.
Right.
But they think they have it.
The best thing in the world.
Yeah. So it's been extremely rewarding.
And it made you say that because you said not a little boy, you said a little girl, because they, when you teach them, they get extremely excited about just achieving that one little thing, and jumping off the right foot and using the left hand and making that layup. And they've been trying, and guess what? Their dad or mom would try to do it like 40 times a day, and they never can do it. But you can take them in 20 minutes and teach them. So it's fun to have those mentors in life to be able to do that. So it's a great feeling. I've been there before.
Yeah.
I enjoy. I train boys and girls, so it's been extremely rewarding for me. And another thing I do is I have an opportunity to go speak at a lot of youth groups, Boys and Girls Club, Boy Scouts, and things like that. So, like I tell them, I don't have all of the answers, but this is what happened to me, and this is where I am right now. So hopefully I can plant some seeds, and if I'm only lucky enough to plant one seed, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you can just go somewhere, people listening here can contact Phil. We'll put that information back out as well. But if you need a great speaker, because I know you can speak very well these things and got great stories and ACC stories, and we'll have some more conversation, I'm sure. I want to bring the group together, you, me, Al Wood, and all that kind of stuff as well to make this work. But any other ventures you have going on right now that you want to people to know about that can be helpful to you?
That's about it, man. I
Okay.
mean, that's about it. Like I said, that keeps me busy.
I can imagine.
On the speaking tour and training the kids and stuff like that. But things are going well. I'm really enjoying life right now.
That's great. And you're in North Carolina still, correct?
I'm in Raleigh. North Carolina. Exactly.
That's great. Now,
the home of NC State.
Yeah, exactly.
okay, the home of NC State. But how do you think UNC is gonna fare this year? The reigning NCAA champs. What are your predictions?
I like our squad. I really do. Coach Williams is one of the best coaches going now, and I think he has our team probably right where we should be at this time. We're extremely young in the middle. All of us 5 men are freshmen per se.
Wow.
And we're very deep on the perimeter. We have shooters, we have drivers, we have defenders, slashers. I mean, it's I'm enjoying watching us play. We had a blip against Michigan State. It's one of those games, and I've been in games like that, man. We missed 15 layups, open shots. It's just one of those things that the bucket had a top on it that night. Yeah, but
right.
But I like our team. We had a good win against a Davidson team last night, and everybody's saying it was only Davidson.
Right.
But they shoot that three. That three ball is really that's changed the game a lot. And they were knocking that three in the first half. But we were able to hold on and get a good win last night in Charlotte.
Well, a couple more. So a lot of these listeners will be in our local station and here in Virginia. But coming to Charlottesville, you played in the area with Wally Wonder and Wally Walker in the Jeff Lamp area. Give me some stories about coming to University Hall, and that's the first question. And then give me something that because you played in Final Four, you won, and the great Al McGuire, Butch Beard, that crew. But give me a UVA story coming to University Hall, but also give me your memories after that about playing in the Final Four in March Madness.
Well, University Hall, the arenas, back then were a little smaller and they were a lot louder, I think. It seemed like it was. I think the big arenas now, you have a lot more people, but University Hall was one of those tight places that the students were right up on you. And, it was a tough place to play. The environment was there. And, anytime we went someplace, it was always a big game.
Yeah.
And the arena was always packed and the students were pumped up. And it was just a really hard place to play. I kind of miss the small arenas now, but, I guess because of the way money is involved and stuff now, schools have to have those big arenas, but I kind of miss those small arenas. And University Hall, is one of the old ones in the ACC that I think anybody that you talk to that played in the ACC would tell you that was a very difficult place to play. The Final Four, when we lost to Marquette, you have to give Marquette a lot of credit. They had one of the greatest college players to ever play, a guy named Butch Lee.
Absolutely.
Who, matter of fact, he and I are friends to this day. And it's amazing that, at that time, you can't put things on injury, but Tom LeGard wasn't playing. He was out. He had a ACL, and back then, they didn't have the reconstructive surgery, and he was out, and Walter had a broken finger, and my elbow was hyperextended. But we beat some pretty good teams. We beat Purdue, we beat Notre Dame, we beat Kentucky, and probably one of the greatest teams that no one ever talks about was the 1977 UNLV team, who was averaging well over 100 points then. Without the 3-point line, we beat them. And we lost to Marquette, who probably, if you had to rank all of those teams, probably wouldn't have ranked at the top. But that particular night, they outplayed us. And I really don't think about a lot of the games that I played in, but that's the only game that I have nightmares about. I'm 61 years old, and I still have nightmares about that game. Right. But it was amazing that Coach Smith even got us to that game with the rash of injuries that we had that year. But the Final Four then was a lot different than it is now. It's a spectacle now, but back then I think we played at the Omni in Atlanta. But now, the Final Fours are held at the big stadiums, 75, 80,000 people. But it's an experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I get it. So, I always, will remember a couple of things about, my memories and people memories of Phil Ford, at college, four corners, handling the ball, undersized, that time, they had the shorter guys playing, you could shoot the ball, you could run the team, you could do it all. You had great parents, background, Coach Smith, graduated, someone to look up to. And then for me to have an opportunity to play with you in Houston was really great. But I always remember the twirl. Tell me about the twirl. Tell me,
The what?
the feel, the thrill. Coming down on the break, and you would go to your right and twirl back to your left. We call them the twirl. So that's what we remember Phil for in Houston from that standpoint.
I think that's what you call a poor man's Monroe spin. Is what
Air
it
the
was.
pearl. Yeah, I hear you.
Poor man's Monroe spin. Yeah, that's what that was.
That's and me and Rodney talked. We talked at 12. How's Phil and how's that going on as well? But you come down on the fairway. We no run down the left side because he ain't gonna pass on the right side. So it was all good. It was all good. So that's why Rodney would always run down the left lane. So it's good.
That's great.
Do you teach the kids now that move too? Do you pass on the twirl?
No, we haven't gotten that far.
All
yet.
right,
got that far.
Just those
we're still
left-handed
trying to
layups.
get that right hand and left hand down.
Okay, all
There
right.
you go. That's a little bit more advanced.
We will build up to that.
That's a little bit more
That's
advanced.
exactly. Yeah. Well, Phil, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a real pleasure talking with you. Reflecting on your incredible career and all the amazing things that you're doing today. And I think all of the listeners out there learned a lot from you. And it's great hearing you and Ralph together again. It's like we're back in Houston.
Yeah, I wish we
Well,
were.
thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it. And, I'll do anything for Ralph. And good luck with your show.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And
Thriller
thanks.
and Stick.
And that's it.
Together
That's
again.
it.
That's right.
And once again, I wish we were playing. He'd throw the lob or throw the ball on the right and we go dunk it and play again. But we had a good time. But like I said before, and I think Phil will allude as well. I mean, basketball with the sport that brought together, but the friendships for life. So I appreciate that. And we'll definitely stay in touch.
All right, man.
And coming up next, our tip of the day from Coach Lamont Goings.
Hey, it's that time of week again when you're hearing from Coach Goings. And again, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be on Out of Bounds, great basketball show hosted by none other than NBA Hall of Famer Mr. Ralph Sampson. And, what a tremendous athlete, what a tremendous friend. But just thank you so much for the opportunity to have a little bit of time on the show, Ralph. And what we're going to be talking about is hard work. It's kind of a two-way street, if you will, and that'll be our approach tonight. And we're really talking about basketball on the high school level tonight. And what do I really want to drive home on that is hard work, kind of a two-way street, if you will. A lot of young players don't want to stop and take a look at what their ownership is. They just always want to, put that on the coach, or, sometimes the parents want to put it on the coach. But let's a couple of points that I really want to make tonight is, what is your expectation of your coach? Have you ever thought about that as a player? Let that sink in for a moment. Have you ever thought about the expectation from your coach? As a high school coach, should that coach be, teaching, your player or your student athlete basketball concepts, plays, strategies, what to do when the game is on the line, half-court sets out of timeouts, enhanced performance skills, not how to dribble a basketball, not how to make a left-hand layup or a right-hand layup, or how to shoot a free throw, because we're talking high school basketball. So if that student athlete arrives in the gym is a 10th, 11th, or 12th grader, and coaches have to take time out of a serious practice segment in order to teach them how to make a layup, we are eroding the game. We are not enhancing the game, and that's where our segment tonight is hard work. So what we're going to challenge is, what are the fundamentals that you as a player possess? What is your level of basketball IQ? Meaning, when you show up on the first day of open gym or the first day of basketball practice, you should be sound. You should be coming in. You should be working prior to. You should be able to make those layups. You should, left hand, right hand. You should be able to do the 3-man weave. You should be able to understand how to dribble. You need to be able to understand, what that looks like, from a basketball player, from the expectation of your coach. Because if your coach hadn't changed from season to season, you should, and you possibly that you played for this coach last year. Why don't you know that level of expectation? Then you as a player, what is your basketball IQ? What do you think? You played last year, you come back this year. What are your strengths? Do you have 6'5" in the post, 6'6" on the wing, and all of a sudden you got a 6'3" slasher in the small forward position. So there, you summarize your teammates, and you know what you need to be able to bring to the court and to the practice. So again, hard work. Players must take ownership of the process by putting time into development. That's one of the things I like to be able to call out, in this segment, Ralph, is, a lot of times, young players don't want to put the time in. They just want to go play. A lot of, I hear that so often is, oh, we're going to play. But how many young players stop and, really spend that time and, and working the craft, if you will? Stopping and taking a look and saying, I really need to work on, this segment. Anytime I do player development, I always challenge any one of my players, whether it's a guard or whether it's a big, is to be able to say, you need to develop 3 moves out of the 1 move. So if they're working on, and say, I'm just going to use a post player, for example. If they're in the post and we, have a guard, make that entry pass and they're on the block, what does that look like? So they can go left, they can go right, they can drop step, then they can turn around and face the basket. So, again, 3 moves out of every move that you make. And then tools to be successful regarding these areas. And what does that happen? Player number 1 has to listen to the instruction. A lot of times, players want to arrive in a gym or want to work out, but then they don't want to take the feedback. So you have to ask the question is, what work are you doing outside of game time in order to get better? And that's what we're speaking of. Don't think that you've arrived as a player, because, you're still learning the game. Yeah, you may be a decent high school player and you may be on the elite level. But there is still work that you can do. There's, footage that you can watch. What's made successful players successful is the time and grade. I look at, Ray Allen. How many times and hours before a game would he be in the gym, working on his craft? And I know we're not NBA and we don't have that ability to go into the gym 4 hours before each game. And I'm not speaking of that, so hopefully you're not trying to take us down that path. But my challenge to you is, when you have the opportunity, when you get in the gym, most coaches they can set their schedule up, on Saturdays or prior to the season. When a kid wants to work and that coach sees that passion, a lot of times they will make their way in order to get that gym door open, so therefore they can get in there and that kid can really home in on that skill set. Because when they don't do it, who loses? That's when most coaches realize that, when you're out here and you're not really giving the all to whatever reason, you don't want to give your all, then that's when you have to really question yourself and say, am I the player or am I giving the game what I need to give the game? And so in that whole regard, so once you go in and you've put a little bit of time in and you work very hard, how about finding somebody that you hold in high regard as it relates to basketball skill, basketball knowledge? And then here's the thing, they need to take a look at you in game time action. They need to take a look at you in the open practice, again, open practice, and that's arranged by your coach. And then get a little feedback session. Feedback is breakfast of champions. How do you, as a player, sit down with someone, again, that you've asked, to take a hardcore look at your skill, and then be able to take that feedback and then, put an action plan together and say, this is what I'm going to work on before the season or during the season. And there's nothing wrong with it. A player can get better as time goes. And the big thing there is what you have to be able to do is be willing to take that feedback, be willing to develop that action plan, and then be willing to put that hard work into that entire process. But again, that expectation from your coach, what do you expect from him? And then what does he expect from you? A lot of times as players, that is something that you need to go make sure that you have that open line of communication with your coach to be able to go in and say, Coach, what do I need to work on prior to the season? What do I need to work on after the first couple of games? And then apply that whatever which way that you need to. So, and then here's the thing. Don't dwell on the mistakes. You learn from those mistakes. You have to have a short memory in basketball. It's all about, the positive balance, the positive body language. Every shot that you take, you need to take that shot just like it's going in the bottom of the net. And if it doesn't, okay, great. The sun's going to come up. You need to hustle back down on the other end of the floor. But hard work will allow you to be able to control your emotions and be able to not worry about, what the coach is going to do if you miss the shot, not worry about if you turn the ball over. What you have to do is play your game. And then in that repetition or that time, you will be able to sit down with your coach after the game or after a couple games and say, Coach, I notice, when this happens, this is what I feel is going to come quick. Or is your coach a coach that allows you to mess up on the floor because nobody's going to play the game perfectly? There's turnovers are part of the game. Now you try to minimize those turnovers and understand is when a person just creates turnovers after turnover, the coach has to address that. But that's not what we're speaking of tonight. It's just being able to say, how do you take a negative situation and kind of put it off to the side and move forward? And that's what we mean by making sure that you are dialed in the right way and not be worried about, the quick whistle or having to play and with that frame of mind that if I make a mistake, the coach is going to pull me out with the quickness. And I've seen that in my entire basketball career, that a lot of times that happens. But as a player, and I always used to tell my players is those are things that you can't control. You just have to continue to work hard. So listen, as we start to wind this segment down on hard work, and we definitely want to thank Mr. Ralph Sampson for allowing us to be a part of such a great show. And that's Out of Bounds with Mr. Ralph Sampson. And again, as Coach Goins starts signing off, please understand that what we're saying and what we're trying to convey is that hard work. Don't underestimate the hard work. Don't underestimate the enhanced performance skills that you have to have, and don't underestimate your coach. Make sure that is a two-way street. That you're communicating at a high level so you get understanding.
If you're thinking about buying, you better see Ryan. Hi, I'm Ralph Sampson for
Steven Toyota.
With a tremendous selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, SUVs, and a lot of great certified used Toyota vehicles in stock. Plus, we have a team working hard to get your credit approved and more for your trade. If you're thinking about buying, you better see my friend Ryan.
Steven Toyota.
Shop today, South Main Street, Harrisonburg, and StevenToyota.com, and be sure to tell Ryan that Ralph sent you.
Steven Toyota.
Well, that was a thriller. Phil the Thriller.
The Thriller.
That was amazing. And Stick, I didn't even actually know that was your nickname.
Hey, that's my nickname. It from way back when to my high school coach, Coach Roger Berge in the Valley here, gave me that nickname, Stick Man, and it has stuck with me for many, many, many years, and it still does.
It still does. All right, I'm going to start calling you that.
All right.
Okay, all right. What's my nickname?
Zone, in the zone, which actually is your name. So it's a great name.
That's
great
right. I
name.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Well, this has been another great episode of Out of Bounds with Ralph Sampson and myself, Jason Zone Fisher, brought to you by the fine folks at Steven Toyota. Every week at the same time, the same place, we're going to be bringing you more exceptional guests with intriguing conversations. We're going to be talking not just about the past, because we're definitely going to get into that. I mean, you share so many incredible memories with all of these different guests, but we're also going to talk about what's going on in college basketball and the NBA and in the world of sports and just the world.
Absolutely. Sports, but get more involved in not just an interview or just questions, but how these guys became successful, not only on the court, but off the court, but how they got started with their career in life. Where did they come from? And you hear directly from these guys and not just from what you may read somewhere.
Right, exactly. So we're going in depth every single week here on Out of Bounds. It's going to be a lot of fun. We appreciate you tuning in, and we can't wait to bring you many more great episodes with some exceptional, informative, exciting,
intriguing guys.
That's right. We're working on our adjectives over here is what we're doing. Yeah, we're making it happen. So thank you guys for listening. If you want to find out more information about Out of Bounds, check out lionfishentertainment.com.
lionfishentertainment.com, and we'll see you out of bounds.